You're listening to the Just Go Bike podcast. We're all about the culture of bicycling just for the fun of it. Your host, Kathy Murphy from the Morphology podcast and Andrea Parrott from Parrott Talk are joined by a wide variety of guests each week that delve into the social side of cycling. With tales from RAGBRAI Nation, come for the bikes, stay for the fun, and leave with a smile. And now, here are your hosts, Murph.
Hey, that's me.
And AP.
And that's me.
Hey there, AP.
Hi, Murph. What's new with you?
Gosh, I don't know. Here we are in, what are we in? Late February. And I've been kind of laying low here in my town where I live, doing some biking outdoors as well as on the trainer, but making plans for future bike adventures. And for me, planning is like half the fun.
Oh, yeah. It's incredibly fun to start planning your adventures because, you're sort of beginning to live the experience in your mind ahead of time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love that part.
And speaking of experiences and things you love, you have to tell the listeners about your recent trip to Coralville.
Yeah. So recently, my boyfriend Cliff and I got to go to a University of Iowa's women's basketball game and see Caitlin Clark earn the NCAA women's record for most points made by any basketball player.
Oh my gosh. I watched on television and I can only imagine what it was like to actually be there and see that happen.
It was insane. I think my ears are still ringing. I think I kind of can't hear still because it was incredibly loud. Just so exciting, so phenomenal, and obviously a record well earned over games and games and games over her whole college career.
Yeah.
So,
and then that particular game, which I know you know this, but listeners might not know, she went on to make the most points ever, 49 points in a game.
Yeah. She's phenomenal. She's unstoppable. And of course, the record-making point was a three-pointer from the logo. Like, it was way out there, and it just happened so quick. It was like within 2 minutes of the start of the game. I mean, it was just breathtakingly awesome to be there. And obviously a once-in-a-lifetime experience, I think.
Yeah.
And go Hawkeyes. It was incredible. Huge shout out to my mom for offering me the tickets. She has season tickets. So I can tell that my mom truly loves me. So thank you for that.
Oh my God, that is so cool. And of course, a huge shout out to Caitlin Clark. I mean, she's amazing. She makes national headlines now. And then also the whole Hawkeye team and, Coach Bluter, wow, it makes me very proud. Well, I'm already proud, but it makes me even more proud to be an Iowan.
I mean, those women are good at basketball. That was so awesome to see. And we're doing some renovations at the office, but I definitely got a poster to hang up once we're done finishing the upgrades.
Sweet.
So if we ever do a video podcast, you'll see my Caitlin Clark poster in the background.
Okay.
For sure.
And I mean, a tiny brag, we both got our pictures taken with Caitlin Clark alive and in person in Coralville last year. And I think both of us ended up putting them on Facebook after she made her goal.
Oh, we sure did. It was so cool to get to meet her last June. She was just as awesome as you would hope in person. Sometimes they say don't meet your heroes, but Caitlin was someone that I would highly recommend meeting if you get the chance. She was fun and just interesting to talk to. And she said she might do RAGBRAI someday.
I was just going to say, we should find out if she enjoys biking because I think she would be a great guest. And I'm being selfish because I just want to talk to her. But it'd be great to get her on the podcast.
I don't think they let her risk her harming herself
on a bicycle.
Yet, but maybe someday. But.
You're right. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to today's episode. Do you remember Team RWB on RAGBRAI?
Oh, you bet. They're Team Red, White, and Blue.
Yes. Okay, so a very high level, Team RWB it's like a community of veterans, families, and also supporters that are united by teamwork. And this organization, which is teamrwb.org, if you want to go check it out, they help veterans live healthier lives through fitness, and it's a national organization.
That's such a cool purpose and such a cool reason to have a cycling team. I read somewhere that they have over 18,000 annual events across the U.S.
Yeah. Both Todd and Paul are going to be on to tell us a little bit about that. Cycling is just one of many, many, many events that they talk about. And of course, one of the events that they do is obviously RAGBRAI, which is why they were on the pod. So two of the guys that I mentioned, Todd Cowan and Paul Wade, will be on or are on to talk a little bit about Team RWB and just some of the fun that they've had on RAGBRAI.
Yeah, these guys are great, and I do believe they have been longtime listeners.
Oh, you are correct. And I do believe if you listen carefully to the intro, they kind of mock us is not the right word, but try and duplicate our intro.
Ooh, like, bring it on. I love that. Like, I would love to see. They probably could do a better job than us. It is hard to talk at the same time.
I know.
I don't know what they're imitating exactly, but
yeah. Well, and Todd was actually on the Murphology podcast several years ago to talk about Team RWB and one of his first RAGBRAI experiences. So I'll link the episode in our show notes because it's a pretty good episode.
Yeah, I remember that. That's awesome. It'll be fun to kind of catch up with him again now that it's been a little bit. Something else we should probably put in the show notes is the video that these guys did about how to pack for RAGBRAI.
Oh, for sure. It's like, I'm sure everyone's seen the video that I am doing where I'm showing how to pack for RAGBRAI. Theirs is similar, but double in length. It's about 20 minutes long, but they have so many like little funny jokes that they do while they're talking about packing. So it's a very effective tool, to put into your tool bag if you're thinking about doing RAGBRAI for the first time.
Well, I know what I'll be doing after we finish this interview. Gotta watch that video.
That's right.
But for now, let's get to the interview with Todd and Paul.
All right, here we go. I'd like to give a big warm welcome to Todd Cowan and Paul Wade. Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going, Murph?
Great.
That's T-Dog, and that's Paul.
Wait, are you guys copying what AP and I do?
I don't know what you're talking about. We're not listeners. I don't listen to the podcast. I don't even.
That's not what you said before we pushed record.
that is not true. That is, I am lying. I have warned Murph that I will fangirl out at some point during this podcast.
Well, it's very nice to have you on the podcast. Todd, you've been on before, as AP and I mentioned in our intro. So it's nice to be able to talk to you guys. I guess we actually met in real life on RAGBRAI this past year. So it's nice to get to talk to you again.
It's great to be here. So, it was great to finally meet you.
Yes.
It's funny because you posted a picture one time from one of the end towns where you were at the dip site and I was standing right behind you.
Oh,
but
yeah.
We had never met.
That was a couple years ago because I think I was photographing the Dream Team coming in. And I had no idea that you were standing right there. And I think you were in your RWB jersey, which is...
Yeah, it says Enriching Veterans' Lives right on the shirt, standing right behind you.
Oh,
it was funny seeing that. But, it's like, good Lord, I'm standing right there.
Yeah, yeah.
But we didn't ever actually meet until we went to the route announcement party last year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, we should tell the listeners the reason that you're on the show is to talk about Team RWB. And hopefully people know what that organization is all about. But that's why you're on.
Perfect.
Yeah. So before we get into Team RWB, will each of you tell the listeners where you live and maybe, I don't know, a fun fact about cycling there?
Sure. So we live in your exotic neighbor to the south, Missouri, Columbia, Missouri. And we have the Katy. Everything is great here with cycling. Todd and I are both cycling commuters, and we just have tons of tracks around the area. Todd, you could talk a little bit about it.
Sure. There's it's a very, very bike friendly town. There's bike lanes and trails everywhere. We have I ride the MKT just about every day when I'm commuting to work.
The MKT is about 5 miles or 6 miles out to the Katy Trail from my house.
Oh.
And then Katy Trail, you get out to Hyman Junction, you turn left, you go to St. Louis, you turn right, you go to Kansas City.
Oh, awesome.
So it's just a great trail system, and you can just get anywhere. And for somebody who doesn't drive, it's great.
Yeah.
And we have like tons of mountain bike trails. We've got one of the groups I wanted to throw a shout out to is a group called Local Motion that's here locally, that they advocate for like safer streets and more pedestrian options. And they put on events as well that we could talk about as well. And there's just all kinds of different racing groups here, riding groups here, doing single track, just everything you would want to see. Tons of bike shops. It's just a great place to be if you like to ride a bike.
And you mentioned you're both commuters. So is your route to work, I think Todd mentioned it, he uses a trail system. Same thing for you, Paul, or are you on city traffic streets?
So I actually moved here when I used to go to school. I moved here to go to graduate school. We're at the home of the University of Missouri, and it used to be a lot more streets, mostly in the downtown. And then now it's mostly trail until I get downtown, and then I kind of just move around the area that way. And like Todd said, it's just a great place to be because you are separated from traffic until you get to where the traffic is moving slower so that you can get where you need to go.
Yeah, that's nice. And I can't say enough good things about the Katy Trail. I mean, it's not a paved trail, but wow, well maintained, little towns all along it. It's really cool.
It's great to just hop on the Katy Trail, and we head to Roachport all the time and for breakfast and stuff like that. And I mean, Paul and I have a million adventures out on the Katy Trail. So
excellent.
One time it was very warm, like it is not going to be here shortly. And we went in the winter and we went riding out, and it got dark quick. And Todd almost hit a cow on the trail. So that's the one thing. That's the one downside is there's no cars, but sometimes you'll get a cow that's on the loose.
That's a true story. We saw, a cow pie on the way out, and I identified it as a cow pie, being an original Iowan. I know what those look like.
Sure.
But I didn't know why is there a cow pie in the middle of the trail? There's no pastures or anything like that out there. And so then on our way back, I was looking down to make sure that we didn't hit it. And we're riding at night with lights on. And sure enough, the cow was right in front of me. So I had to slam on my brakes. But
and cows are not very small. Those are huge animals.
No.
It was a sneaky cow.
My biggest regret is not getting a picture with the cow and Paul and I with the cow.
I had a similar experience. We were bagging out to RAGBRAI one year, and we were on the Cedar Valley Nature Trail in an area that it was unpaved. And apparently there were pastures around because we were cruising along and we see a cow come out of nowhere and start running down the trail the same direction that we were riding. And so we're like, what is that really a cow? And then it jumped back off the trail and went into a cow pasture. So we did get a photograph, but it's a little blurry because everyone's like, probably like you guys, like, is that real?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I know you guys have plenty of stories to tell us about biking and RAGBRAI and all that good stuff, but let's get into what Team RWB is. And, the obvious question to start with is, what does it stand for?
Team RWB stands for Team Red, White, and Blue. It was established in 2010. Paul, Paul's been a member longer than I have, so he can give a little bit better history.
Yeah, I mean, it was started in 2010, just when the founder got together with a bunch of friends to run a marathon. And it was something that I joined when I was on active duty in about 2012. We do all kinds of events. I think, Todd, you have a complete list of events, right?
We run, walk, jog, ruck, hike, bike, yoga, CrossFit, tacos, breakfast.
Wow.
Okay. Right.
Wow.
So, yeah. So our mission is to enrich veterans' lives, and we do that through those events that you have there. We're forming America's leading health and wellness organization for veterans. And so we're basically just a positive outlet for veterans to get into and connect them to their communities. If you look at studies, they show that most Americans live within 18 miles of their mother, which means that they're very connected to their community. Veterans are much more likely to settle somewhere other than where they're from. Todd already said he's from Iowa. I'm originally from Illinois, and I live in Missouri. So Team RWB is like really helpful in connecting us to the community, and we're open to everybody that wants to join. So even if you're not a veteran, if the closest veteran that you have that served to you is your great grandfather who fought in the Civil War, as long as you're out there and you just want to make your community stronger by welcoming people into the community in a very healthy way, and not so healthy that you have to be, running marathons. But like Todd said, we also do breakfast, and we also, just ride bikes for fun. Come on out and join the team.
And is it specific to Missouri, or are there branches everywhere?
Right. There's over 200. There's close to 200 chapters nationwide, and so I mean, there's one for everybody. They also do national events, such as the RAGBRAI and Ragnar and some of the other ones, Marine Corps Marathon. And then now they're doing a lot more national events at the national level, such as what they call the
monthly missions.
The monthly missions, right? And so like we'll have like the 9/11 stair climb, the Mogadishu Mile in a particular month, and every chapter is doing those particular events. And what the whole goal is, just to get people out into the community and doing stuff active, centered around health and wellness. And it's really, if you join, I mean, if you don't join, it's just because you hate fun. So.
And do you guys know the website off the top of your heads to be able to share with listeners?
Sure, it's teamrwb.org.
Oh, that's easy enough. Okay.
You can join, donate, or shop.
Okay.
And joining is free, and it's open to everybody. And if you are a veteran, you get a free T-shirt with it, which is a pretty cool. It's like a mesh fabric that's good for working out. So it's a really good deal if you just want to go to the gym and something that looks nice and moisture wicks.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you have a team on RAGBRAI, and we were talking about this before we pushed record. The interview I had with Dr. Kella Price, who rode her bike with the shelter box, she briefly mentioned Team RWB, and we talked a little bit about Todd for a second. So that's kind of a interesting segue into talking about RAGBRAI again.
Sure. The first RAGBRAI I did was 2018, and my main motivation was just because it went past where I grew up. And it went, the same route last year pretty much as the one in 2018. So, it went right past, where I grew up. I stopped last year and made like a little video of, outside of Luther, Iowa, where on the gravel road that I rode my mini bike down there when I was 10 years old and watched the very first RAGBRAI come through.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, I did my first one in 2018 and told Paul how great it was. And I said, but I think I'm one and done. And then like a week later, I signed up for the next one. So,
he's really short selling it.
Yeah, I was. And so we did our first one together in 2019. And the first year I did it, we had 12 people from Team Red, White, and Blue, week-long riders. And then I think the year that Paul went, we had 14, and it's just kind of grown since then. And now our goal this year is to have 80 week-long campers, along with, we have RVers as well. And so, we'll certainly welcome anybody else that wants to come with us. We use OOS for our SAG service, for our baggage service, and we all camp together, and it's just a fun time. And we build our own RAGBRAI community, for just the same way we're building communities in each town.
And I was just going to say, when you talk about, you're looking to get upwards towards 80 campers or 80 riders this year, do you guys all know each other, or is the common connection Team RWB, and then by the end of the week, you guys are probably all, best friends?
So I think that's where Todd was kind of selling it short. Is Todd became friends with everybody on that first ride, and that's kind of how it works. Is there's going to be people that show up that have been doing RAGBRAI with Team Red, White, and Blue for a while, and then there's going to be people that show up the first time. And I remember we brought a friend here from Columbia who is also a member of Team RWB, and he forgot, like, he packed his gloves for his bike, and they were already on the back of the baggage truck. They're like way packed up there, and he goes, I don't know what to do. And I was like, hey, who wants some, does anyone have some gloves? And one of the guys had not taken his baggage in there, and he's digging through his stuff going, here you go, man, here's some gloves. And that was the one thing he remarked on, was like how everybody became a friend almost immediately. Like, everybody's family. Like, we sit around the area and we sit there, and you will make friends for the rest of your life. Like, we're all on the Facebook page or whatever, and we're still friends. We look forward to seeing each other every year, and it's just one of those things. And if you're a veteran, it should really come as no surprise, because as veterans, you join your unit, you're kind of the new guy, you're kind of the outcast, and then you go out to the field or do something that stinks for about 2 weeks at a time, and then you come back, and next thing you know, everybody in the unit is kind of friends with everybody else because they had this shared hardship experience. And so, not saying that RAGBRAI is super hard, but it is one of those things where you kind of go through, you're going to have to ride, if you ride the Century Day, or if you do something, you're going to become friends with each other. And it was really apparent when we showed up that first. So Todd did it that first year. And then he came back and was like, I don't think I'm ever going to do that. And then a month later, he's like, I'm thinking about signing for RAGBRAI. And then November 15th rolls around, and he texts me. He's like, I'm signing for RAGBRAI. You should do RAGBRAI with me. And next thing I know, we're having the route announcement party at his house, and it's literally just me, him, and our wives, and we put it on the big screen, and Todd's like got a piece of paper, and he's writing down all the names of the towns as they're there. I still remember his wife saying, like, it's going to be online, like, in a minute. Like, you don't have to write it down. Like,
I couldn't wait a minute. I had to write them down.
I used to be the exact same way. I mean, even though you're right, it would be on, Facebook within minutes. But does the team go into RAGBRAI with a goal? Obviously you just said about, gaining that sense of community, but do you do it as a fundraiser or awareness for Red, White, and Blue?
We love to put our name out there. So that everybody knows about Team RWB. We run into veterans that have never heard of it before. And so it's a good recruiting tool. We want to get our name out there. We don't use it as a fundraiser, really. We tell people if they go to the website or whatever, they can certainly donate.
Right.
I mean, we're not going to turn down any donations, of course. But for the most part, it's just about building a sense of community and doing something as a group, and our group is just kind of keeps growing, just like any group would do.
And based on the small amount of time in my life that I have talked to you two, I already know that you guys are a hoot to be around, and you have a lot of fun together. And I have proof of it because I have a photograph of, I think it's me and AP, and then you two, and you guys have the fat heads that we had during the RAGBRAI Expo, right?
That was last year, yeah. Correct.
We just ordered new fat heads for this coming year because that big storm that came through on Friday in Coralville, our fat heads did not make it. So we just ordered some new ones, so they'll be back.
Here's the real question. Were they blown away? And because if they were, I imagine that somewhere at a high school gymnasium in Iowa, somebody is holding up those fat heads to distract someone as they shoot a free throw.
No, we have them in our possession. They are just waterlogged. So, Well, how about some fun memories that you can share with listeners about your RAGBRAI experiences?
Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, I was going to say, I have always loved RAGBRAI, and I think my first time, I remember my very first day of RAGBRAI, I just remember it rained that morning, and it was super cold. and I can't. It was 2019. I can't remember what it was. It Council Bluffs. I can't remember what town we were going out of, but I remember all the people like lining the streets and yelling at us, and it was just like just like cheering us on and being happy. And I just remember thinking how awesome it was. And then it was so cold that day. There was a girl who rode with us, and she was very tiny, and she was shaking at one point because she was just so cold. And these people came up to us, and they thought that me and Todd were like harassing her, like making her keep going, even though she didn't want to go because she was shaking so much. And when we ended, and I want to say it went to Emmetsville, and so we go there, and we're in our tents or something. We go out to eat that night, and Todd was like, "Are you having a good time? Are you having a good time?" And he told me later that he was just really worried that because he had convinced me to go, that I was going to be like, "This is terrible. I can't believe Todd had me do this. Like, this is just the worst time ever." And it ended up like I loved it. I mean, I had a great time. Like, I knew it was just it was one kind of nasty day out of a week that was otherwise amazing, but it was just great. And we went to a place that is now shut down called Oinkers.
Oh.
And just the ability to go to a place called Oinkers is in and of itself a tremendous opportunity if you don't get anything. So
that was probably, I mean, one of the most RAGBRAI things you could ever hear is asking one of the locals if something was nearby where you could eat, and they say, "Well, Oinkers is right down there." And it's like, well, I know exactly where we're eating.
You have to, right?
Right. You can't go anywhere but Oinkers.
Yeah. And when
that was in Atlantic, Iowa. Yeah.
Atlantic,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to, when you think about RAGBRAI, it's kind of the same as what Todd said, where, like this past year, right? RAGBRAI 50, so many people, and it got so hot, and then that big storm. Like, I think I was beyond tired, and that first day back home, you're getting your laundry done and airing everything out. You're like, I don't know if I want to do this again. And I think it probably took me maybe one good night's sleep, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I cannot wait to go back.
It was funny because we had somebody that they did their first RAGBRAI, I think in 2022, and she rode up there with us, and we were on our way back, and she was saying, "Yeah, I think I'm one and done." Her and her boyfriend had done it with us and stuff like that, and they were members of Team RWB, and so we always hang out with them. And she said, "Yeah, I just really think I'm one and done on that," and she had no plans to do it again. And then her boyfriend sent us a text and said, I'm not going to say Pam has changed her mind, but she just sent me a list of things we need to buy for the next RAGBRAI.
Perfect.
So for me, I always enjoy like the little things on RAGBRAI. Like I remember riding along and seeing there was a guy on like an old timey bicycle, and he looked like he was in like a French art film, to include wearing clogs. He rode the entire day,
wow.
Like in 2019. And I asked him if anything was changed. He's like, well, the only thing is I put clips on my clogs, which I thought was amazing. And you always see the guys on like, there's somebody riding a penny farthing, and then there's always those kinds of things that are happening along the way. And then I just always like meeting all the people and then telling like the little stupid jokes. Like there's the Norwegian tandem bike I saw last year, and whenever they rode by, I always looked at whoever was next to me and said, "I heard they got here on a fjord." So and it always got a little laugh, which always made me happy.
Yeah.
And then we had another friend who like he rode kind of on his own for the time, and I'm going to go ahead and dime him out, but he came back, and I was like, well, did anything happen today? And he's like, yeah, I arm wrestled an old lady. And I was like, what? And he said he was at some lady's house, and she had an arm wrestling contraption set up to where it was like an arm wrestling table, and she was giving out like free drinks or something. And so he was like, who arm wrestles? And she said, well, I do. And then he's like, he paid her $5 to arm wrestle her, and then he lost.
I was just going to say, are you going to tell us if he won or lost?
And that was the highlight of, I was like, that is the most RAGBRAI story I've ever heard in my life.
And his name,
he was talking about this.
And his name was Todd Cowan.
It was not Todd Cowan.
Okay.
I would have stopped if I would have saw somebody with a professional arm wrestling table in their yard. I don't care how old they are or any. I'm not arm wrestling them.
And then to all RAGBRAI, like as the days went by, the tail of her grew and grew to where she had one arm that was larger than the other, and she became much older than she really was. It was like, it was a lot of fun. So
definitely
at someone else's expense. So that's always a good time.
And do you guys camp, or are you one of the ones that are in the RVs?
We camp.
Okay. So that in itself is kind of a interesting dynamic to RAGBRAI, because, you bike all day and you meet people and you have fun and, whatever you do. But then it's a whole different set of memories sleeping in a tent on the ground, with temperatures or rain or everyone unzipping their tent.
Exactly.
I was just going to say, the one thing that I think about the tent camping is a lot of times people, when I talk to them about RAGBRAI, they're always concerned about tent camping, especially veterans are like, I don't like staying in tent. I didn't like staying in tents when I was there. But I always have an inflatable mattress and a little electric fan and everything. If you look up, this is an interesting interview, because if you look up like RAGBRAI packing on YouTube, I think videos that contain us are actually the number 1 and 2 videos between me, you, and Murph. And so like that's one of the things we talk about is like the electric fans in the video. And so, it's not like you're roughing it, but it's also not like you're sleeping in a hotel room, but it's kind of like that medium kind of thing there. Cause there's always so many places that will, even if you just go with RAGBRAI alone, you get 50 pounds of gear, so you're setting up your tent, you get other kind of stuff in your tent with you,
right,
that you're using for that. So you can still set up like a fan or something like that. And also it's Iowa. So except for last year, the heat has not been oppressive. Last year, even after the sun went down last year, it still cooled off a little bit. So.
And now, time for a training tip.
Let's talk about consistency. Consistency is a crucial element in any training program, including bicycle training. Here are a few insights to think about when it comes to your training. First off, establish a routine. Set a regular schedule for your training sessions, whether it's daily, several times a week, weekly, whatever. Having a routine makes it easier to integrate cycling into your lifestyle. And while having a routine is important, life can be unpredictable. Be adaptable and willing to adjust your training plan when necessary. If you miss a session, don't be discouraged. Focus on getting back on track. Progression over perfection. Consistency is more about regularity and progress over time than achieving perfection in every training session. Some days you may feel stronger than others. Some days the weather may play a factor. All of that's okay. The key is to keep moving forward. And celebrate small wins. Acknowledge and celebrate your achievements no matter how small. Whether it's completing a challenging hill climb, achieving a new distance, or maybe improving your speed, recognizing your progress can boost your motivation. Listen to your body. Pay attention to how your body feels. If you're consistently fatigued or experiencing any pain, it may be a sign that you need more rest or a lighter training load. Ignoring these warning signs early can lead to overtraining and some pretty terrible setbacks. Set realistic goals. While it's essential to have ambitious goals, make sure they're realistic and achievable within your fitness level. Think about the long-term benefits and visualize yourself as an improved version of you. And finally, find accountability partners. Training with a friend or joining a cycling group, it provides external motivation and accountability. Knowing that others are counting on you can make it more likely that you'll stick to your training plan. Remember, consistency is not about perfection, but about making a commitment to your training over the long term. It's the cumulative effect of regular, purposeful efforts that lead to improvement and success in cycling. Now back to the show. Well, What other adventures have you guys been on that you want to share with us?
Well, I'll bring up one. Paul and I one year we had the year that RAGBRAI got canceled. That was the year we did the whole Katy Trail, and I just really wanted to do something epic because, I mean, with no RAGBRAI, we had to do something. So we came up. We even named it Todd and Paul's Epic Week of Riding Missouri, or if you can kind of figure out the acronym for that, it's tapeworm. So we did the whole Katy Trail in 4 days. And we thought we'd really accomplish something by doing it in 4 days. And then like 2 weeks later, some girl did it in 24 hours.
Oh,
and
my
so,
gosh.
Yeah. So we kind of felt a little bad about that, but kudos to her.
Well, you can always go back and try again.
So we were always on the Katy Trail. We just did the Rock Island Trail, this portion of it last year after we got done with RAGBRAI. So,
which it's going to go all the way from so once the Rock Island is completed, which I'm not sure. I was joking with Todd that we were not going to get into the vagaries of the law and the problems with the Rock Island Trail completion because I knew that your listeners would not want to be subjected to 30 minutes of legal discussion. But once it's completed, it's going to go all the way to the Arrowhead Stadium where the Kansas City Chiefs play.
Oh.
So you could ride all the way from St. Louis to there. And so we rode the portion that is complete so far all the way to Windsor, which is on the Katy Trail itself. And that was a lot of fun too. And it's basically the same thing. It's that crushed limestone trail, and it's super nice. I will say this to anybody who rides RAGBRAI, because one of the things that Todd didn't mention is we were like, oh, well, 60 days on RAGBRAI is nothing. 60 miles on RAGBRAI is nothing. 60 miles on the Katy Trail is going to be super easy. And because it's that like softer trail and it's just kind of flat, you don't get you don't get any kind of like gravity working with you situation. It's actually like a lot harder to do 60 miles on the Katy, I thought at least, than it was to do 60 miles on RAGBRAI.
I completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, even you would think because it's flat or whatever, like this is going to be so easy, but it's not.
Well, you never stop pedaling because you never really can coast, like what you spoke to.
Right, exactly.
That's what I say. I ride 70 miles on the Katy before I do RAGBRAI, and I know I'm done. I know I'm ready. I'm like, I did 70 miles on the Katy. But what I do is I ride out. A lot of times I'll ride out to Rocheport and get breakfast with somebody like Todd or something, and then I'll ride around town. We have a bunch of trails around town that are a lot like the Katy that ride through the area, and then I'll ride the rest of those to get my 70 miles in, and then I know I'm good to go. I pronounce myself RAGBRAI ready, that I can do that. But I say that, and I tell people I pronounce you RAGBRAI ready, as though I am the one who pronounces people to be that. But one of the fun things that I think is not been talked about is Todd just got a hip replacement, and he's going to do RAGBRAI this year.
Wow! Well,
Todd, you made it sound like my hip replacement was fun.
So tell everybody about your trip to go get your hip replaced, Todd.
Oh, I rode my bike to my hip replacement surgery. I just wanted to get one more ride in, and so
wow.
I rode from my house to hip replacement surgery.
Wow, and you're already back to commuting, right? You're healthy enough that you're back?
Yeah, I rode my bike for the first time like a week ago, and then I saw my surgeon in the elevator, and he thought I was crazy because it was only like 20 degrees outside. So I promised him that I wouldn't ride when it was icy or anything. So, but there was a snowstorm when I rode home that night.
Wow.
So you lied to your surgeon.
Yeah.
Wow. Now that's an adventure in itself.
Yeah. Me and Paul's whole life is an adventure. So.
And I'm assuming, I probably shouldn't, but I'm assuming that you guys will be back for RAGBRAI 51?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. We are both already signed up. And we are the organizers for this year's Team Red, White, and Blue team. So, yeah, we're clocked in. We have our jerseys designed, everything. We're ready to go.
And just so everyone knows, if they want to sign up for our RAGBRAI team, it's donate.teamrwb.org/RWB RAGBRAI. And that's all one word. And then you can also just buy a jersey if you just want to support RWB or be a member of the team, but you have you're riding with your family or you're doing something else, you can still get a jersey. Just show up on the first day when we do our little intro and we'll hand you a jersey.
We're not mailing out any jerseys.
Yeah.
You have to be at our camp on day 0. But and then also you have to be a member of Team RWB, so which is free to join anyway. So sign up.
And we will put the link in our show notes so people can reference that while they're listening. That's awesome. Good.
Most everybody's getting their information through our Facebook page. And so if somebody wanted to just join that, I mean, it's Team RWB RAGBRAI 2024.
And you said that's a Facebook page?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's our Facebook group. So.
Okay, good. Well, let's see. I at least want to ask this question because I feel like you'd both have a really good answer. But is there any advice that either of you or both of you would want to give people who are wanting to get active? Besides, you can't just say join Team RWB because we already know that.
I would say just, starting is the hardest part. That's the way I feel. Once you start and once you set a goal, and that's my biggest thing is I always find it easier to set a goal. Paul and I both signed up for a triathlon in June. So we're both committed to doing the work to be able to do that and not look stupid and everything like that. So we have to train for it, and that's the biggest thing. So we've set a goal. We're both going to do this triathlon in Jefferson City, and so that's our goal, and so we got to get back at it.
I was actually going to say the same thing about goal setting. When I first joined RWB, I was stationed in Louisiana, and I would just kind of go do the runs and do the rides. And then there was a duathlon that was taking place in Baton Rouge and called Gator Tracks. And I remember I thought that I would die if I didn't train. And so I lost a bunch of weight training for it, just getting ready. And it really started with setting the goal that I was going to do it and committing to doing it, because that kind of forced me to get kind of off my butt and do what I needed to do. As a side note, I did the duathlon on a mountain bike because that was the only bike I owned at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I will tell you that when I did really well on the 2-mile run, because at the time I was in the Army, and so I was really good at 2-mile runs. And then I got on my bike, started riding, and then I passed this one guy who was right in front of me, and then he passed me, then somebody else passed me, then some old people passed me, then a little kid passed me, and then I was feeling really bad. But I felt good when I got back on because there's a run at the end of it too, and I was running, and somebody said, "Wasn't that the guy on the mountain bike? How is he still alive?" And I was like, I felt really good at that point. So.
I will say this to you, Kathy. Like, I'll admittedly, I had a really horrible rag ride last year. My hip was really bothering me, and I couldn't ride every single day. And so there was a couple days that I sat out. And so this year, somebody told me, well, if you do it again in 2024, we understand, you don't have to, do every single day if you don't want to and all this other stuff. But I'm pretty determined right now. I was depressed after I got home last year. And that depression's turned into determination. And so I will ride every inch of RAGBRAI this year in 2024. So.
And with a new hip, it'll be your hip's first RAGBRAI.
That's true. That is true. So.
Well, and what I'm hearing, as you guys are speaking to, getting more active, is also the accountability. I mean, you both decided to sign up for a triathlon, and even though it might be for fun, but being able to text each other hey, did you go swim today? Or hey, did you do this today? That's, at least for me, it's very motivating because I'm I know somebody else is counting on me to participate in the same event. And, a lot of people could say that about RAGBRAI too.
You're absolutely right. And that's one of the things that I tell people all the time is because I've had people say well, I'd like to do RAGBRAI, and then they basically want me to show up at their house at 5:00 every morning and be like, "Hey, let's go for a ride." Let's go for a ride. I can't do that. You're going to have to get up and work yourself, but I can do once a week. I can do a ride with you, or hey, I can motivate you and you can motivate me, and we can do stuff like that. Because me and Todd, as much as we ride together, we also do a lot of stuff apart that we have to do, even though we live in the same town. So for us to all be able to do that, those things, whether it's running or biking or doing the swim portion of the triathlon. We can't always do it together, and you kind of have to take it upon yourself to want to do that. And that's one of the things I think it really helps people, and it makes them better people at the end of the day, because you're doing something for yourself and you're doing something with other people as well.
For sure. And that's a good segue into telling everyone one more time about Team RWB as far as like contact. And I want to reiterate that it's an organization that you don't have to pay money to be a member. Is that correct?
That's correct. The only time you ever have to pay any money is if there's like a specific event. Like if we piggyback and create an event for a 5K that's in town, well, you may, to run that 5K, you have to pay an entry fee. We don't pay. I mean, that's the only part that that would cost you money. All of our events are free. The ones that we have here, our biking events and our running events. We do rucking, we do yoga, just do everything that it's all centered around health and wellness.
And
tell them about Bikes and Breakfast.
Oh, Bikes and Breakfast. We ride out. We start here in town, and then we ride out to the Katy Trail out to McBain, which Kathy, you're probably aware of. You've been in McBain before.
Yep.
And then we have a social team, which is Paul's wife and my wife, and they set up and they serve breakfast out there. And so it's 6 miles out and 6 miles back, 4.5 out, 4.5 back. And for me and Paul, that's nothing to ride that. But for some people, I mean, that's their biggest biking event that they will ever do.
Oh,
and
sure.
So they're, they have the gratification of doing a 9-mile ride. So, but yeah, Bikes and Breakfast we usually have like 25 or 30 people doing that.
Wow. And I'm assuming some are brand new riders, and then some are there for the social aspect. So it probably is a really good team.
It is, correct. We even lend them bikes. Like if somebody doesn't have a bike, I don't have a bike, I can't do it. Well, yeah, you can, because Paul and I we own about 75 bikes. So.
I thought that was like rule number 1 of owning a lot of bikes, is to never actually acknowledge how many bikes you have.
It's always N+1.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, guys, I am so appreciative that we were able to have this time to, laugh and talk and promote the Team Red, White, and Blue.
Kathy, we love being on the podcast. I know Paul has, after the last podcast, he knew exactly when, like during the podcast. How many minutes into the podcast, Paul, did it take for me to mention you?
I don't know, but there is a part that's queued up in my phone where sound like you're ripping on me pretty hard. And so I want to make sure that I joked about that I was going to have 5 good minutes on Todd here to go over all of his shortcomings, but I've decided to keep that out.
You're right. All I said was that after the first RAGBRAI that Paul did, not a day goes by that he doesn't text me or call me, and we have a discussion about RAGBRAI. Our wives absolutely hate us because that's usually all we talk about.
The opposite is also true. So
yeah,
constantly. So yeah, and I can't wait to see everybody again next year. So if you see me on the ride, please come up and say hi or something like that. So
hear my voice. Watch our packing video. So, and then you'll see us out at RAGBRAI.
Yeah, and we want to see the New Jerseys too when you get to the point where they're public.
Yeah, they're pretty public. We've been showing them to everybody that is potentially going to sign up with us and everything. So yeah, if you sign up for Team Red, White, and Blue, and then go to if you want information about RAGBRAI, go to the Team RWB RAGBRAI 2024 Facebook page, and the jerseys are on there.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Good. All right, guys.
Designed by Paul and I. So
designed by you guys?
Yeah, we designed them.
And Primal. So we just kind of put some chicken scratches down, and they made them look really good.
Very good.
Yeah, that's true.
Very good. Well, thanks again so much for coming on the podcast, and we will see you in July, if not sooner.
All right, Kathy, we'll see you later.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for tuning in to the Just Go Bike podcast. Murph and AP will be back next week. In the meantime, check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. And if you would like to contact Murph and AP with a comment about the podcast, or maybe you have a topic in mind, email them at justgobikepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, especially if you're a fan. Until next time,
Just go bike!
Theme song by Ryan Steer, logo by Suzanne Milosevic, produced by Kathy Murphy, social media by Andrea Parrott, intro by Pumpkin. Until next time, just go bike.